So this is Patrick Gallar here from Letterkenny Institute of Technology. So I'd like to welcome everyone to this training event and the follow-on multiplier and showcase tomorrow. The objective of the next 2 days is to display and showcase the work and fruits of the Digital Wellbeing Educators project. This was a 2-year Erasmus Plus funded project, and we're just coming towards the end of that project now. This was a very important project, and it focused on how educators can integrate digital pedagogy in a way that promotes the digital well-being of their students. The project has taken on greater importance with the impact of COVID over the last 4 months, and increased the focus on digital learning. We'd initially developed a full week of activities in Ireland for April, but unfortunately we had to cancel this because of
I know, I feel the same way.
So from the ashes, I think we have created an interesting and informative event. So the next 2 days will have 3 parts. So today we're going to have a training event, or it'll be in the format of a training event, and we will really focus on the outputs and the work of the project today. Tomorrow we're going to move on to a multiplier and showcase. The first one will be hosted by ourselves in Lancaster. And then in the afternoon, our Spanish partners will also have a multiplier in Spanish. So and that'll be hosted by the University of Alcalá. So to our Spanish partners, buena suerte for tomorrow. So just briefly, I just want to briefly introduce the partners or the team for this project. So in Ireland, it was ourselves, and I want to thank Maria, Nigel and Karen for all the great work here for Letterkenny Institute of Technology. And we also work very closely with Momentum as well, and Carrick Shannon, an e-learning company specialist. In Spain, we had the University of Alcalá. In Belgium, we had the European University of Continuing Education Network with a high focus on lifelong learning. Denmark, we were joined by the European E-Learning Institute, again, another e-learning company specialist. Every project needs a good lead, and we were delighted to have Lancaster with Julianne and Chrissa to lead out on this project, and they give us excellent direction as we work through this thing. So finally, we have a slight change maybe to the original agenda. The original plan was we were to have a small number of participants for this training event, but we have had an extraordinary response to this event today. I think there's over 150 people registered. So we can't really organize maybe the breakout sessions in the format we wanted. So the focus on the early part of the morning will be delivering the content of what we worked upon on the project. And in the afternoon, we will try and focus on a more interactive networking type of event. And we will give you a little bit more, Julianne will give you some more details about that later on. But nevertheless, there is a chat facility there and a question and answer. So we will try and make the event as interactive as possible. Let me just see, is there anything else? So basically, if that's okay, I'm going to hand over now to Dr. Julie Ann Syme in Lancaster University, and she might just talk a little bit about the training event today, and we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Anyway, good morning. It's nice to see so many people, or at least I can't see you, but I know you're there. So it's good to have so many people coming this morning. Higher education has been transformed in recent months in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, as face-to-face teaching has been abruptly transformed into emergency remote teaching in online environments. For many, this is a first-time experience accelerating adoption of online education, often in a very agile way, without the time and resources to allow for a carefully planned approach. And throughout this process, students have also been compelled to change the way that they learn, and many may lack the experiences, the skills, and the competences required to fully participate in online education. The online space is not always benign, and problems can occur, such as distraction or understanding security issues that they may not have encountered before. So how can educational institutions and educators like ourselves support students more effectively during this time? The term emergency remote teaching distinguishes it from online education, as it recognises the quite extraordinary circumstances of these changes to teaching practice and the rapid adjustments that have had to be required by educators and students under stressful conditions. Many lecturers, trainers, and postgraduate students who teach, I include all of those in the term educators that I use, anyone who teaches in higher education, they've experienced steep learning curves as teaching has moved online, whilst also adapting to the substantial changes in their own personal working arrangements and personal lives. While our project did not anticipate these circumstances, no one could foresee them, it is well placed to offer a set of open educational resources to help teachers and their students understand the key issues and debates around online education and also digital well-being. So in this project, our theory of change is that by building the capability of educators in higher education to teach about digital well-being and to enact digital pedagogies, we can promote the well-being of their students. So we're pleased to announce the release of a number of open educational resources which are free to use and to modify by educators to suit your own local needs. I'll talk more about these later, and other presenters from my partners will also provide you with more details on these resources that we've produced. But they include a modular course on digital well-being, a mobile app which provides a shorter e-learning course for students, some resources on digital pedagogy as well for educators, including a toolkit with an analysis of 20 educational tools, and a short e-learning course on digital pedagogy. So what have we done? We have undertaken a small research study to explore the concept of digital well-being, which is not well understood, to look at the published research and the teaching practices in the area of digital well-being. This has been achieved by adopting an approach that combines literature review, a review of the practice, and also interviews with key personnel in the field to find out about their views on the threats to digital well-being, the challenges, the opportunities, and potential future directions. So we interviewed 10 people who've been actively engaged in research and teaching in the area of digital well-being. The criteria was that they had to have had some experience of delivering courses, producing frameworks or models, or researching in the area of digital well-being. It was actually quite challenging to find enough participants. And this has enabled us to find out the views of experienced individuals, and it's also enabled us to gather together a set of resources, including courses, case studies, and other open educational resources that can be used by other educators. These are all described in the Digital Wellbeing Compendium, which is a report that's available in both English and in Spanish, and it includes links to case studies, open educational resources that we've found during the project, and a summary of the research from the interviews with the experienced professionals in the area. Chris Athamelis will talk more about this later. So that's just a brief overview. Okay, so what is digital well-being? I have been asked why we talk about digital well-being and not just about mental health and well-being. For example, at Lancaster University, we have a good support that's already in place for well-being, and we have designated well-being officers in all our colleges that look after our students. The answer is that digital well-being requires an understanding of digital environments and the threats that exist in those environments. And that's not necessarily well understood. There is some overlap, of course, when you talk about relationships with others. There is some commonality, whether it's online or offline. But there's also specific issues that relate to the digital environment. For example, issues of online privacy, understanding how they work, digital identity and how it works across multiple media, cybersecurity, the anonymity of being online and the problems and challenges that that may create. So these challenges are different and they need different approaches to mitigate their effects. The examples that I've got there are issues such as smartphone addiction, fake news, Zoom fatigue is the latest one that I've heard about. But you'll have heard about many of these issues in the media and be familiar with them. So digital wellness. Digital well-being as a phrase was coined in 2013 by Ferrari, as far as I can tell. So it's a fairly new concept that has many different perspectives and definitions depending on the discipline and the perspective of the researcher. For example, Chadwick Royal from North Carolina Central University in America prefers to talk about digital wellness as the optimum state of health to be obtained, rather than focusing on the negatives. Much of the debate in the area, in the media and the literature, focuses on redressing the balance. For example, Google now talks about your responsibilities to maintain the balance between your use of technology and not using technology, to maintain that balance in your life. While Royal and colleagues stress digital well-being is an issue of mental health in general, they point out that it's not really an addiction. If you take the perspective of mental health professionals, it doesn't fit the strict definitions. They suggest that we should drop this focus on negative impacts of technology and focus on maintaining a state of digital wellness. For example, by managing distraction, by acting safely and responsibly online, and maintaining a healthy balance in our use of technologies. So other researchers like Gui and colleagues have a more social definition of digital well-being, and as a state obtainable not only by the individual through his or her personal digital well-being skills, but also as a characteristic of a community whose norms, values, and expectations contribute to its members' comfort, safety, satisfaction, and fulfillment. This definition acknowledges that it's not just a personal responsibility to be, for digital well-being, that there's also a contribution that comes from society and from communities around us that shares the responsibility as they influence our individual behavior. For example, in the workplace, if you are expected to reply to emails at weekends, if other people are doing it, then you may feel pressure to comply with that norm in your workplace. So the social pressure of the community can influence individual behaviors. The JISC, Digital Capability Model, on the right here, arose out of a study that interviewed staff in higher education about digital technologies. The staff raised concern about work-life balance, information overload, and the quality of relationships online. While acknowledging that institutions have a responsibility, it's also identified a need for improved digital skills and capabilities in order to deal with the new challenges posed by digital technologies, such as promoting respect in online communities and ensuring inclusion and equality. As a result, higher education institutions can play a role in providing training and digital capabilities, digital skills, which are valuable for students and educators. But to what extent are technology companies responsible for our digital well-being? There is growing concern in the media about the responsibility of technology companies, for example, like Facebook, and their responsibility to monitor and maintain the digital well-being of the people that use their site. Questions are being asked about the role of governments as well. In recent years, we've seen how companies are now taking more responsibility for moderating their content and taking down, for example, racist remarks and hate speech from banned terrorist groups. So pressure has been put upon them and they have had to respond to that. A second area where technology companies can change and improve digital well-being is in the design of technology. For example, the Centre for Humane Design campaigns for technology that minimises the potential harm to communities and protects the most vulnerable in our society. For example, it's possible to create fake accounts on social media and bots who impersonate real people that can be used to sway opinions by creating a false sense of consensus. And if that happens during a political election, that is a threat to democracy. So technologies can attempt to mitigate these effects by monitoring and preventing fake accounts, for example. There are other examples, and governments can put pressure on them to do this. In the last few years, we've also seen the rise of big data and artificial intelligence techniques, such as machine learning. For educators, that means we need to be aware of the potential of big data in learning, or learning analytics, as it's called in the learning sphere. Learning analytics is the gathering and analysis of data on the learner's online behaviour. With any big data, there are risks that patterns of classification may unknowingly embed discrimination or harmful representations of identity. And because of the machine learning techniques that are being used, it's not always obvious that these are happening. It's a hidden risk. Or simply with our learning analytics, there could be a diversion that there is more emphasis on behavior in learning that diverts attention from learning goals. For example, downloading a document is not the same as reading it. And learning analytics can't make that distinction. So governments can play a role by creating regulatory frameworks and legislation, such as the data protection and GDPR. One of the ways that we as educators can take responsibility for well-being is to ensure that the educational technologies that we choose to use embody the values and beliefs of ourselves as educators, whatever they may be. Educators do not always agree about the best way to teach, the best digital pedagogy, and there are definitely differences that can be seen between and also within disciplines as to how we teach. But if we adopt a critical approach to the selection of educational technologies and make sure that they align with our values and pedagogical approach, then we can avoid succumbing to the pressures from technology companies that lead us to design teaching based on the technology or constrained by the technology rather than designed by the pedagogy. So why is this important? It's because technology companies can be driven by profit and do not necessarily think about the well-being of the student. As educators, we need to be critical and think about pedagogy first and find the technology that supports that pedagogy rather than drives it. For example, algorithmic proctoring software is increasingly being used in online examinations to verify the identity of students and monitor their behaviour remotely during an examination. The proctoring software uses face recognition, video, GPS location, and other things to verify the identity of the students. And concerns have been raised about who can access this data afterwards, because it is shared with the teachers. And there's questions asked about the assumptions of normality that it includes, which may be harmful to those in minority groups, and about potential discriminatory exclusions. For example, face recognition software is known to be particularly bad at recognizing people who have a darker skin tone. And this can create exclusions and lack of access. So another example is plagiarism software. A lot more universities are probably using the plagiarism software, like my own. And software like Turnitin has been criticised quite heavily for its assumptions that students cannot be trusted, that they must be monitored, and this can be a source of anxiety for students who may not understand the necessary academic practices when they arrive into higher education. So now that the initial response to COVID-19 lockdown has passed, I hope, we can reflect upon and improve our pedagogical approaches and our use of technology. So to summarise, how can higher education institutions and educators support wellbeing, digital wellbeing? We can provide professional development and training courses and digital capabilities, and indeed these things are already going on. We can establish healthy expectations in the workplace and in our learning communities. We can promote the digital well-being of students by being role models ourselves and integrating into our teaching digital well-being as we see the need for it. We can be critical of the technologies that we use and of those that our institution purchases and tells us to use, especially if they do not align with our own personal beliefs in digital pedagogy. We can continue to enhance our own understanding of digital pedagogies and emerging learning technologies and techniques. So the Digital Wellbeing Project has produced a range of open educational resources, which are available in Spanish and in English. And they're free to use by anyone to modify, to integrate into your own teaching in part or fully. The Digital Wellbeing Compendium of Innovative Practices is a report that maps the field of digital wellbeing education, research and practice. It also includes those open educational resources that we've found that exist prior to the project, and it showcases innovative, creative and participative approaches to digital wellbeing education, which may be inspirational. It also includes a short report on the research that we have undertaken into the challenges, risks, opportunities and future directions for digital wellbeing. The second set of resources have been developed by the project, and they include a digital wellbeing course in 8 modules, focusing on topics such as self-image, online and offline identity, cyberbullying and conflict resolution, personal goals and managing distractions, and digital citizenship. A short course providing an overview of the same content is available as a mobile application, or will soon be available in Android stores and for iPhones. The third set of resources focus on digital pedagogy and contain a toolkit showcasing 20 tools for educators with practical advice and examples of how they can be used. And there's also a short e-learning course on different pedagogical approaches. These resources are all available through our project website, digital-wellbeing.eu. And thank you. Thanks for listening.
Okay, thank you for that, Julianne. So just if we could maybe move on then. So I'd like to just introduce Krista Temilis. Krista is based in the Education and Research Department in Lancaster, and her research focuses on the changes, practice and thinking, teaching and that transforms people's lives and engages actively with students, businesses and communities. So Krista is going to talk through Intellectual Output 1, which is the Compendium of Digital Wellbeing. So Krista, if I could hand over to you.
Thank you for the introduction. My name is Krista Temelis and I work as an educational researcher at Lancaster University. So today I'm going to talk about digital wellbeing research, some of the case studies I have discovered, and future direction. When I started working for the Digital Wellbeing Project, I didn't know much about this field. So I had to dig deeper into this field, talk to people, find resources, and it was an exciting learning journey for me. And especially in the age of the pandemic, I fully realized the importance of digital well-being for educators and their students in the field of higher education. You have all seen this photo. Campus closed to all, universities shut down, schools empty. So during the pandemic, we have all experienced the so-called steep learning curve as educators, especially those are new to working at home and acquire new digital habits. We were all hooked on cameras, urge for communication, social bonding and learning, but we need to be aware of the challenges, opportunities of the new form of teleproximity. The teleproximity is a concept that defines the psychological and physical need to feel closer to people when we work or learn. For example, young people, they even use video gaming to help them connect with their friends and classmates. We all have understood that human beings want and need connection, and the internet is the ultimate connection machine, especially in the periods of lockdown. That's why in my visual background there is this phone, the need to connect to others even in the period of social distancing. So I started finding the term. The first word digital, it was easier to define. Our life is saturated with digital technologies, but in the beginning, I was not fully aware of the impact of tools in our life. Humans need tools, humans need and want augmentation, and as the saying goes, first we make our tools and then our tools form us. This word of digital, it was easy to understand. Then I tried to define the word well-being. Here things were difficult. Philosophers from ancient Greece, Plato, Aristotle, and in Renaissance and contemporary philosophy have tried to define the concept of happiness, of well-being, of wellness, but they are still in the process of trying to really define what it is. So I decided to use Davis categorization. So we have emotional well-being, the way we treat our feelings, stress management techniques, physical well-being, the ability to improve the functioning of our body, social well-being, the ability to communicate, develop meaningful relationship, workplace well-being, the ability to pursue our interests, values, and dreams, societal well-being, the ability to actively participate in a thriving community, culture, and environment. I'm sorry if I interrupt, but I don't see myself on screen. Is there any mistakes, Sonia, or hope you are able to see me? So I will proceed. So having this definition in my mind, I tried to search for information and intervention. So my idea was that I need to find people that they have the vision to improve the social well-being of educators and their students. So I wanted to find people that they have already created a kind of intervention, some activities, some services, and most importantly, I would like to see how effective their intervention was. So I was interested in intermediate and long-term impact. I was looking for information through research engines, and I couldn't find a lot of things. I was just able to find Google approach, JISC approach, but I couldn't find a lot. So I was really worried in the beginning. But then one of the project partners, Kamer Rohio, advised me to search per country. And that changes everything, because when I tried to search by country, I was able to find all the hidden digital well-being centers around the world and what they were trying to do. So for the research project, I used informed crowding theory because I would like to combine updated literature and talk to people, talk to experienced people in the field of digital well-being. And I was able to interview 10 of them that they had already created theoretical frameworks, awareness modules, MOOC, public lectures, school projects, or they were very interested in digital well-being activism. And it was a very productive process that helped me understand the concept and see innovative approaches around the world. So today I'm going to show you some of the cases that I have encountered, but you can find most of the cases in the compendium, which is open access and available to all in the project website. So the first platform that I looked for was the Erasmus platform, and there I have spotted frameworks and resources, but it was one project that was really interesting and get a lot of awards. It was a lie detector. The lie detector was fighting the production of ignorance that is trying to invade academia and educational institution, trying to help students realize what is true and what is fake, and why we have so many fake information. So what they have done is they have asked journalists to try to show to school children what is fake news, how they are produced and designed, how they are disseminated, why they dominate the internet. So it was one of the project that it's worth spending some time to look into it. The next thing that I have discovered, okay, sorry, let's go back again. Let's see if something came. Nope. No. This is some information from the European platform, but I don't want to spend so much time on that. Let's go to the Italian case. The Italian case, it's called the Italian Digital Wellness Center. It is in collaboration with the University of Milano Bococca, and they have created different tools like the digital IQ tool that I'm going to show you. Let me show you a little bit. Okay, this is the Italian approach. They have designed this IQ digital wellness tool. And here you explore your digital well-being, safety, digital content, communication, collaboration, and information. And the tests are based on 5 areas on which you will be evaluated. Digital IQ is a scientific test developed with the collaboration of the University of Milan Bococca and psychologists and psychometrics. So that was an interesting approach. The important thing about this approach, the Italian center, was that they have created some courses, and they have teach almost 4,000 students digital competencies and issues of habit and addiction and subjective well-being, and they have orchestrated research impact. And the research impact proved that they have created a strong impact in the life of the students. They have tried to influence the body perception. They reduced use of smartphones. They improved relationship with teachers and family. And also they have minimized inequalities between the poor and the rich, male and female. And it was the only case I haven't actually seen and interview the people there that they have this long impact research. In Ireland, there are also a lot of intervention. I'm going to show you all about digital skills in higher education because they are very creative, and it's worth spending some time to see that. This is the all aboard, and here you can see the map. You can attend courses related to identity and well-being, to find and use, to communicate and collaborate, create and innovate. And there are station and travel card, and it is very creative because you can choose your own destination and your own roadmap to learn the things that you need. In the UK, we have many endeavors. We have Lancaster University has created some courses for staff. We have University of York that have created FutureLearn MOOC. We have the DISC. The most interesting I have encountered was the Oxford University Digital Ethics Lab that has created some ethical indicators and guidelines that educators might find important while teaching and learning online. Okay, then we have the Digital Wellbeing Lab in Canada. The focus there is on virtual intimacy and virtual social touch, the expression and perception of empathy online and online self-care. We have also the Wellbeing Technology Lab in Australia, and they focus on design, how we need to persuade tech companies to support well-being while designing new software. And they have also publication in this with the title Positive Computing, Technology for Well-being and Human Potential. Another interesting approach is the USA approach, because you can compare different institutions. For example, Julian has already told you about the Center of Humane Technology and how they focus on political implication, on social implication, on the production of ignorance and superficiality. And on the other side, you can see the Google Digital Wellbeing page, which focuses only on personal habits. So it's interesting to see those examples. And of course, you can see more of these examples if you download the compendium, which is available in the project website. Like here we are. The challenge is ahead, because this is where we need to go, the future direction. What I notice is that we lack evidence-based content for our intervention, data-driven courses. It's not the same to create a course for media users or for gamers. So we need somehow to create courses that are data-driven, based on sound research, standardized procedure, evaluation, and most importantly, to focus on impact research, to see how our work has an effect on people's life. Also, I have seen that there is a lack of contextualization and strategic plan for higher education educator. Technology runs faster than ethics, runs faster than everything else in the society. So we need to follow the steps and to design ethical frameworks, to design policies so as to protect educators and their students. I do understand that the field of digital well-being is multidisciplinary, and it's difficult to research because there are involved many disciplines. For example, psychology, philosophy, sociology, design thinking, you name it. There are so many disciplines involved, but we need to change our mindset. We need to be aware of the risk and the potential. We need to find a way to face the risk, to face the epistemology of ignorance that is trying to attack the academic, as Mackenzie and Pratt claim in their paper. And we need to find policies to promote sound academic work and create and promote critical thinking and critical pedagogy for our students. Many times I have seen wonderful researches hidden somehow in research engines, and it's difficult to find them. So we need somehow to learn also to disseminate our work and our researches and create an impact for society and for our students. So what I would like to say at the end is that we need to consider the basics, the ontology, what is real online, what it's worth knowing online, and the epistemology, what are the methods according to which we need to find the proper information and use it and protect ourselves and maintain the digital well-being for us and for our students. What is our role? What is our digital presence online? So we need somehow to return to the basics of research, epistemology, ontology and axiology, to define ethics and criteria according to our fields, our needs, and the needs of our students. So if you would like to see more information, you can follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn, and you can find open resource material in the project website. I see that there are some questions, but I think we can answer them. They are for Julian, some of them. So
yes, so
that's all for me.
there are some questions. I think we're going to take a few minutes to look at some questions now, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So maybe just the first one here is for Julianne. You've mentioned the educational technology company can see learning and behaviour data and analyse them, and it may relate to privacy. What do you think if the learner can track and read their learning behaviour analysis outcome? It may be positive to themselves.
Yes, I would certainly advocate for having openness in learning analytics and open dashboards that show the learner's behaviour or maybe compares that with the class profile can be very valuable for a learner to reflect upon their learning behaviour online. But we have to remember that just because the higher achieving students are more active online, perhaps, they may not be, but if they are more active online, that doesn't mean that a lower achieving student can learn more just by engaging more in the virtual learning environment. There is that issue of quality of engagement and learning that isn't represented through the learning analytics because it's purely representing the behavior. So behavior doesn't equate to cognition, it doesn't equate to learning necessarily, but it can be a powerful tool for reflection. And they may reflect upon their behavior in comparison to others. And as a result, they may engage in more beneficial activities and behaviors.
Okay, there are a number of other questions here, so maybe Krista could join in as well. So one here from, have we caused the problems associated with a lack of digital well-being ourselves? Moving towards more flexible blended approaches has put an extra burden on us as educators. Traditional class times and office hours seems to be a thing of the past. So I suppose this has really been one of the key challenges over the last number of months for people dealing with COVID. I suppose everybody's in the middle of this now.
Of course, we have a personal responsibility to control and monitor our habits and to choose the way that it is closer to the needs of ourselves as educators and to our students. But I think that we need to take into account what the governments are doing, what the companies, and especially the companies that they act as monopoly, are doing, how the attention economy works. So I think it's a complicated issue, so it's not easy to offer easy solutions. I think that we need to take into account all factors and be aware of all the factors that are involved in order to maintain our digital well-being and promote the critical pedagogy for our teaching and learning, because we educators are lifelong learners.
Yeah, we've had a number of questions on the same theme here. To be honest, it appears that educators are struggling here and maybe trying to get stuff out online and content, and maybe the digital well-being aspect for students is not really, foremost in their minds. So I'm just wondering, Julianne, would you have anything to add to that? We have another question here. How can we balance workload and virtual presentations for learning in a C-19 situation when everything has to be done online?
Yes, I think during the current pandemic, I think that we need to be kind to ourselves. We need to acknowledge that we are under pressure, especially those of us who are moving online for the first time. So we need to acknowledge that we may not do it right first time, but now that the first rush is past, we've got time to step back and think about it, and to be a bit more critical in our thinking about what the effect of our teaching has on our students and how we can help our students to develop those skills that they need to create positive habits, to have coping mechanisms. But we also need to acknowledge that individuals can't do it on their own, that we need to think about it in terms of communities. So if we're establishing a learning community within our class, within our cohort of students, then we need to encourage those positive habits and set up an environment which is kind to the participants in it. Yeah, so that it's supportive of well-being. I just think we need more focus and thought about well-being, especially at the moment in the pandemic. I mean, I thought that before the pandemic, so it's just magnified now by the additional stresses that we're under personally and professionally.
Okay, so a lot of the questions are on that theme and just how to cope with this, and maybe it's just come on us all quite suddenly. So I think really that captures most of the questions. They're quite, a lot of them are along the same theme, so there's no point repeating them. So if it's okay, I think we were scheduled to have a 10-minute break maybe. So could I suggest maybe we take a break and we reconvene at, let's just say 11:05, if that's okay. Okay, and thank you, Krista and Julianne, that was excellent.
Thanks, Patrick.
So we will reconvene soon. Thank you. That's good, Laura.
Okay, you're good to go? Okay.
Yeah.
So, yes, so I'm just going to be covering the Digital Wellbeing Educators course today. And I suppose with this project, just a warm welcome to all, of course, primarily. And I'm also going to be introducing the app. And I'm from a company called Momentum. And as Padraig said, we're based in Carrick and Shannon in Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland. So we're the Republic of Ireland representatives of the project. And just to give a little quick introduction to Momentum and who we are, we describe ourselves as vibrant, enthusiastic, and we're focused on education and innovative practices. And we love to bring passion and energy and drive to every project. And that includes this project, what we try to achieve. So delighted to meet you, and basically we've been in business probably since 2003, and we work on progressive learning programs, content and platforms, and we do a lot of training, and we do a lot of specialization in entrepreneurship and innovation and marketing, of course, and then digital media and social media. So first of all, let me introduce you to the curriculum. It was a very exciting curriculum, and there was a lot involved in the project, and we tried to make it as on trend and as appropriate as possible to the Digital Wellbeing Educators project. So the curriculum and the corresponding materials are intended for higher education educators, trainers that deliver digital wellbeing as part of the overall educational programs, or they can update or integrate with existing programs that may be already in place. Of course, that is just the target audience that we pitch the content for, but in saying that, it is of course relevant for most educators, so it's open to everybody who may make use of the resources. I'll go through the resources a little later on. So first of all, one of the girls are going to share the website link in one of the chat areas, and what you'll see is how to get to the curriculum and the app. So first of all, you click on the learning resources, and as you can see there, they're delivered in English and in Spanish, and you click then on the Digital Wellbeing Educators app. Okay, so that will bring you directly into all of the resources, but I'm going to bring you through the resources right now. Okay. So as I said, it's designed for teachers and for the students that correspond with those teachers. And regarding digital wellbeing and digital pedagogies, for teaching online and integrate critical approaches to digital life into their existing teaching programs. The reason for this is because we realized that there was a lot of content missing. Educators are strapped for time and resources. So we find that this is a brilliant way of delivering those resources so everybody has access to them. And obviously education stakeholders whose awareness and knowledge of good practice in digital well-being and media literacy, which not may be available to them, is now made available through the project. So we want to basically transform and reshape the audience's relationship with digital technology that can transform their mind and improve their focus. By no way are we negative against digital technology. It's how you can use it to, I suppose, assist with your well-being in a digital perspective. And by resisting digital temptations, you save your mental energy for more important tasks. And we just kind of display how this is done. So who was the project created by? It was created by, as we said, the speakers today. So Letterkenny, Momentum, EUEI, EUCN, and Lancaster University and University Alcala. Okay, so I suppose in a world where the uncontrolled use of digital media is on the rise and the digital competency levels of students are decreasing, there is an urgent need for this project and to design the tools and the courses to educate and transfer the knowledge to the students and the educators. And I suppose the online world is drawing people in more and more, and we are just navigating the receivers so that we can, I suppose, put them in the right direction to ensure that their well-being is maintained. Examples of this would be students spending disproportionate amounts of time online, probably not been fully aware of how they're communicating or how it may affect their well-being now or in the future, and how they can stay safe and, I suppose, behave a little bit better online and maintain their future prospects. Examples in education and careers. So the Digital Wellbeing Educators course is addressing these points by developing a number of tools. So as we said, we are looking at the compendium of best practice, and that is highlights out there the challenges being addressed. Then we look at the Digital Wellbeing course and app, and that's for the trainers and module course. And then we have the pedagogic toolkit, and that's to assist teachers to develop their own digital skills. And then we have on another short course. So let's get on with the program itself. So our approach to the content and the development and the corresponding course materials was to provide educators with practical knowledges and skills. So it really was pitched at a very practical level so that everybody who interacted with the resources could learn from them. So the course is provided and it's online, it's free for everybody, and it's highly accessible, and we've actually introduced the topics in a simple and concise way. The information is current, best practice, so we all did a high level of research to make sure we got the best topics covered and ones that were, supposed, most important and highly neglected. And that's not to say that educators were neglecting in any way, but it's just to say that the resources weren't available. So that was our job, to make sure they were available. And just to make sure that knowledge is reinforced and clear and concise, and skills are developed as students participate in the practical exercise and studies in question. So there is a series of 8 modules altogether, and they're structured as a journey. So we sequence them and with the flow, and I made sure that the topics, I suppose, were built in a structured way. We also have an introductory module. We felt it was appropriate for educators, for those who probably weren't fully aware of digital wellbeing. So it's a really nice module that introduces the educators into digital wellbeing and as digital wellbeing educators, and it also gives a little bit of information about the educational environment and how to incorporate digital wellbeing. So in the next section, we'll just go through what a module looks like. I'll give you a sample module. And like, as we said, there's about 8 modules, and there's a lot of bonus material in there as well. And each module has a sample of roughly 80 to 50 slides, and maybe a little bit more, but it's a minimum of 50 slides. And they all have the information, the questions, activities, exercises, and further reading. So I'm just going to give you a quick introduction to the module title. So we have module 1, and that's the introduction to digital wellbeing. And that's a separate one to the educators' introduction to digital wellbeing. This is specifically for the students. All of these modules are specifically for the students, so you can deliver them. And so module 2 is self-image, online and offline identities. Module 3 is digital footprint, netiquette and reputation. That module we'll be covering later on as a sample version. Cyberbullying and conflict resolution. Module 5, privacy, security and safety. And module 6, personal goals, managing distractions. Module 6 is an ultimate guide to creating professional links in series as well. So we have bonus material in there on how to do that. That's in a PDF format. And we just felt that maybe students need a little bit extra material in that regard, especially when they're trying to achieve their personal goals in a career perspective. Module 7, critical thinking, fake news and extreme views. And then module 8, digital citizenship and social responsibility. Excuse me for the tongue tie. So as you can see, we have I suppose online, and I can present here, we have trying to make it as easy and accessible as possible for all of you educators out there who want to get stuck into these resources. We've actually indicated the topics that we've covered in each of the modules. So, for example, we have in the module 1, which is digital wellbeing introduction. So we're covering digital wellbeing defined, the skills and the capabilities required to successfully use digital technologies. Then we have understanding digital behaviour and how it can deteriorate your wellbeing, and balancing your digital activity in the real world activity. And then obviously we have digital technology and the wellbeing benefits. We always try and balance the modules and the content, presenting you the negatives, but also how you can combat the negatives and ensure that your well-being is maintained. And every module completes at the end with some exercises and activities. And the exercises and activities range from, say, an online questionnaire, or there could be group work, or they could be some extra reading or some videos that students can watch. And we do that to make sure that all of the students receive the information in their preferred way, but also to give you a multitude of different ways to present the information in an interactive way as well. So if I can, I suppose module 8, we just go through that one. So module 8 is digital citizenship and social responsibility. This was an area that I probably wasn't wholly familiar with. So it was a learning experience for me as well. And I just found the information and the content very interesting. And that covers digital citizenship and how to develop norms and appropriate and empowered technology use. So what is digital citizenship and how do you incorporate it and how do you inform students of what that exactly is? So I'll be doing a little test later on as an activity so you can actually assess your own digital citizenship. And obviously your digital footprint and digital tab too. I've said digital a lot, haven't I? So bear with me. It is, I suppose, a digital presentation. So, and then digital social relationships, and then the 9 keys and P's of digital citizenship. So let's move on now to how you receive these resources. So as I said, the resources are presented in a practical way. So if you go into the links that I indicated earlier on where the resources are, if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you will see a little image like this, and you'll see download your IO2 modules. What you'll receive is a zip file. So all of the modules are in that zip file, and they're in PowerPoint version, which means that you can edit them whatever way you want. So these materials are designed, obviously, to keep the WDE, the Digital Wellbeing Educators branding, but you can mix the modules, you can edit them, you can do what you want with them. So they're designed to be flexible and editable for your use and your purpose, okay? So let's have a closer look at the modules. So I'm going to take module 3 and we'll look at digital footprint, netiquette and reputation. So I'll give you a little reminder where they are housed. And that's the Digital Wellbeing EU in the website, and you just do your click. So I'll give you a second to do that. And you can download if you want. I would say just download that maybe afterwards because it might take a few minutes. But we'll just go through the module 3 first of all. So as you can see, there's an introductory slide, and then we have a quick objectives and learning topics. So you have a good idea of what it covers and a little reminder of what the objectives will be for each of the students. So for example, we look at understanding what your digital footprint is, which is really important, and then creating a visual representation of what your digital footprint might include, understanding the difference between your digital footprint and your digital shadow, and then realize why employable online profiles and business and companies collect their information online, which is really important. And especially for students who are about to approach the outside world and I suppose finish up their education. This is really important. And then learn how to manage your online professional reputation. Okay, so just a quick introductory slide to cover. Students today are very engaged in the online world, but they're often unaware of how their actions online leave a permanent trace that can affect their future reputation. So in this module, we introduce the idea of digital footprints, what you do online, how you leave traces behind, and how these traces can impact your current and future professional life, health, career, and online experience. Okay. So the outcomes will be you will learn what your digital footprint is and how you can leave traces that can never be erased. How you'll be able to find out the size of your digital footprint by using different tools. So in all the aspects of the project, we have tried to use and incorporate different online tools to keep in the digital realm. And the tool here that we use is the personal digital footprint calculator. And then you'll become aware of your digital shadow and what it comprises of. And I suppose it's very important to get familiar with these words and the terminology as well for future knowledge about your digital world. And then we'll check out your navigate, and then if it's correct or acceptable, you may not be aware if it is or if it isn't. And then you'll understand your online reputation by incorporating 4 tips and be able to protect it. So what we do is, I'm just going to go through quickly a few different slides. Much what you do online leaves ongoing trace of your activity. So it talks about your digital footprint. Then it will go what it is, and there's a little video there that your students can watch. We have questions, and so it's a yes, always, no, sometimes. So I know it's important for educators to maintain interaction and attention of your students. So we find that these questions were really beneficial for your teaching practices. And then websites and web merchants, we cover different topics, and Facebook. So we cover all the different platforms where your digital footprint can be impacted. Google, and then photos and selfies. Is it just harmless? Is it just a simple picture? Or what actually are you doing? Okay, and it talks there about exchangeable image file formats. And then it goes on to create your digital footprint, time to create your own footprint. So there's a little exercise there. And then you find out the size. So you can see that they're very, they're not text heavy. It's very practical and easy to understand information. And we've loads of videos in there as well. So who's interested in digital footprints? This is the employers bit. Obviously police and crime prevention, healthcare, and online service providers. There's some more quick questions. And to tag or not to tag is covered. And then what you do and you don't. So your digital shadow, as well as having a digital footprint, you also have a digital shadow. Your digital shadow comprises of passive contributions. So images of you on a surveillance camera, bank records, retail and airline purchase records, telephone records, medical database, hospital scans, web searches, backup data, and credit card purchases. So there's a lot of different ways your digital data can be captured, and to be aware of these and protect them is the height of importance. So we look at, again, positive uses of using your data and your digital shadow, and then the negative uses. So I'm just going to move on. So we're just going to play a little video. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and hand over to the girls. We're just going to play this video. Thank you, Sonia, for that. So you can just, it's just a brief video to show you how easy it is to get your information and make students aware of this. And I suppose I have learned as well, and I'm more conscious of my digital shadow. So the next section of the module presentation goes into your digital etiquette. And then are you respectful online? So people may not be aware if they're not being respectful online, and how to check it out. And then so there's loads of stuff there, how to check it out, and then you read the rules, Instagram rules, Snapchat guidelines, Facebook guidelines, and Twitter guidelines. So it kind of covers all the platforms, the most popular ones especially that your students may use. And then some question sessions before you decide, so reconsideration. So then you look at your reputation online. And that you must protect your reputation, and that's in terms of your private and your public. So you check your settings, and then it looks at searching for yourself online and what comes up and how to control it, deactivating old accounts, how to do it properly, maybe some information is still there in the system, and what you need to consider before you post, and then how can it impact your career goals. Then we go into a section then of this girl, how her digital footprint affected her getting a job. So she was looking for, she did not want to go to work at her new job at a pizzeria. So what she did, she tweeted about it. And what happened was the actual employers saw this, and she just actually got fired because of the job. So it's to make sure simple things like that, the students are aware, and how to optimize your profile to have a better LinkedIn, the keywords it covers and how to use them. I'm going through this very quickly. I just want to give you an idea and a flavour of what the content is. That's the purpose of this. And you can obviously download and have a closer look yourself. So, and how to make your profile stand out from the crowd. We also find it important to look at pitfalls and how to avoid them. And we also thought it was important what a successful LinkedIn profile looks like. So what do students need to aspire to when they're looking at the professional online? And then anonymity, and always remember and think about this. So, and then obviously how to personally and identifiable information safe, so how you can do that. So when we've covered the digital shadow section, and then that covers how you can actually manage your digital shadow. We look at privacy options. You can see there's a lot of stuff in there. We even covered GDPR, and then it goes nicely into the exercises and activities. So, for example, in this one, we have managing your online identity and reputation, and that's a lesson and a quiz. And then we have questions. So these are discussion questions for managing your online identity and reputation. And then we have your learning outcomes. So this is just a quick reminder to students what they should have learned. So how to understand your digital footprint, and how you know social media content can impact your personal and career goals. And you should know how to enhance your professional reputation by optimizing your LinkedIn profile, and how to enhance your reputation by building a memorable LinkedIn profile to try and stand out from the crowd, and how you can keep your personal information safe and understanding GDPR as a new learning. So what we will do is just going to go into the next section of the presentation. So we're looking at the Digital Wellbeing Educator's Guide. And this is a really, really handy resource that we thought would be useful for educators, because It's kind of everything in a short document of the modules, what they include. So we have basically about the curriculum, its intention, who it's for, the purpose of it, the objectives, and then in general instructions for educators. So we recommend how educators can use it to their best advantage and potential. And then course delivery options, and then we have the overview of the content, obviously, and then useful links related to the project. And so I'll just go through that quickly. I have a couple of slides here to show you what that looks like. And then we have a sample 7-day digital wellbeing educators training timetable. So we've tried to think of all your needs so that you don't have to spend time working out your resources and how to use them, that you're just ready to go as soon as you get these resources. So, for example, the general instructions looks at the methodological approach, and then it looks at the general instructions. So first of all, you download and you review and revise the course materials to see what you want to include, or use all of the modules for whatever you want to do. How to allocate adequate time for your sessions. How to localize the training content with case studies and information and local supports, and then ensure participants utilize the downloads. So this is, for example, a traditional classroom training and delivery options. You can do the PowerPoint presentation, you can do videos or whiteboard. And then we have, for each module, we have included a description and a visual of a detailed overview. So this is like your dashboard for each of the modules. And in that, we have an introduction to each module. So at a glance, you can see the introduction, the learning objectives, the learning outcomes, and then the exercises and activities included in that module. Okay, so what we'll do is we will look at we've just a couple of activities here that you're welcome to join in. So we have the Google Wellbeing Reflect module, or it's a little quiz. So there's 8 questions in that quiz. So what I'm going to do is stop sharing my screen, and we're going to just what the girls are doing is just put the actual link into the chat room, and if you want to click on that, and we can go through the quiz ourselves together. Okay, so as you can see, it's interactive. So this is with Google, and they have set up their own wellbeing site. And there's 8 questions. What you can do is just click on whatever is relevant to you, and then you click the blue arrow. So I feel the need to check my phone right away if it vibrates or makes a sound. So do you go never, rarely, or sometimes? So I would say sometimes. And then I get distracted by my phone when I'm with my friends and family. I would say sometimes. And then I spend more time on social media than I'd like to. So I would say sometimes. And then I stay on my phone instead of going to sleep when I intend to. Sometimes. And then I feel like I'm missing something important at work if I don't check my phone. I have a question, I reach for my phone for an immediate answer. Okay. And I feel overwhelmed by the amount of unread emails I have. Sometimes. Okay, and then it brings us to the outcome. So based on what the questions were and your responses were to them, there are a few tips to get you started on your path to digital wellbeing. So you can understand how you're using your device optimally. And I suppose for those of you who have iPhones, there is also similar resources there. And actually in the project modules, we have indicated how Apple do the same thing. But I'm just going to look at Google here for today, okay? So, for example, let's think about learning how your time spent in apps. So the dashboard will give you a complete picture of how you use your phones, see your daily screen time and how many notifications you get and how often you unlock your phone. So it's a really good resource, and Google have, I suppose, been a very holistic approach, and they've been very in-depth to cover all your requirements in terms of digital well-being. And then here it tells me YouTube, so how much YouTube you watch. So based on my responses, it said, well, discover how much time you've been watching YouTube. So a lot of people don't probably realize how long they're spending watching videos. And you can see here, it'll tell you how many minutes. So there's a lot of apps that do different things, but this does, the Google section does covers a lot of the different aspects that collectively as apps may do individually. And then you manage your apps and notifications to reduce your distractions. So you can pause distractions and apps and stay focused. So your phone is managing your apps. So you don't have to go into all of your apps individually, and it shows you how to do that. How to control your notifications. And there you see snooze for an hour. And then it talks about limiting interruptions, combining notifications, disabling sound and vibrations. So there's a lot of stuff in there. And the great thing about it is that it talks about other aspects of how to unplug more often and focusing your time with tech and finding a balance as a family and minimizing distractions. So what we've done with the project is we have had a focus on the students and their education, but we've also included their personal lives, because we realize very quickly it's very important that we cover their personal, their professional, and then their educational lives, because then we have a holistic approach to their digital well-being, and that's inside and outside the classroom. And I suppose in the LinkedIn section, in the bonus materials, we've also covered an area which came up as highly important on how to manage your professional and your personal social media platforms, and should you combine them, and if you are, what to consider when you do this. So, so that's basic. So there's loads of stuff in there in the Google Wellbeing. So I would encourage anybody to, even when you're finished the seminar, to hop in there and have a look. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to back into our project presentation. And we're going to have a look at digital citizenship. So I spoke about this earlier on, and it was an area that I wasn't very familiar with. And it talks about how it's continuously developing norms of appropriate, responsible and empowered technology use. And I suppose what this means is that digital citizenship teaches you how to live in the digital world safely and responsibly and ethically. So although digital citizenship potentially begins with a student or an adult signs up an email address, as soon as they post a picture, as soon as they use e-commerce online to buy something, or they, that's when the digital citizenship starts kicking in. And it goes beyond simple internet activity. There's a lot more involved in it, and I suppose it's a very in-depth area, and it's really important for students to be aware of this. So there was 9 actual different elements and foundational elements to digital citizenship, and how to be safe, savvy and social. So they're the 3 aspects of the framework that this focuses on. And they're to reinforce the framework of the teams of digital citizenship. Each team encompasses one of these 3 elements. So for example, safety focuses on protecting yourself online and protecting others, and creates the base of digital citizenship. So that's protecting yourself and protecting others. Then we have how to be savvy. So this focuses on the concepts around educating yourself and connecting with others. So these concepts, they build on the concepts of safety and, again, educating yourself and educating others. And then the social would be the guiding principle, commitment to helping everyone make decisions on, and exemplifying the commitment to respect ourselves and respect others. So this is a highly pertinent area, I suppose, in recent events as well, and especially with young people. So it is an area that does cause concern and needs to be addressed. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to, the girls are going to share in the chat room a little link, and this is how you can test your digital citizenship. So if you want to click on that, so here's the quiz. So what this is, it's a 10-question quiz on how to test your digital citizenship. So you might be quite surprised if you are not aware if you're a good digital citizen or not. And if you want to know how, we can leave you a quick question to check and prove all aspects. So if we click on the link, so can I just check that everybody is okay with that? Okay, so are you a good digital citizen? And then this is how you test yourself. So when you're online with people, with more people, you either behave online a bit differently from what you usually do in real life, you act like you normally do in real life, or you pretend you are a totally different person. So I suppose I'll just click the middle one. So which is you act like you normally do in real life. So when you write a message to another person, are you a bit respectful, but you're not in the habit of saying goodbye? Are you respectful, always greeting and saying goodbye? Or you use bad words and write in capital letters, and you are not respectful at all? So I'm just going to go through this. You're quite welcome to join in and put in your own answers. If you go to post an image in a forum, you always verify that it is a free image, or you don't care about checking the copyright, or you sometimes verify it as free, but not always. So again, that takes a copyright consideration. So we have included that aspect of copyright and adhering to plagiarism in the modules as well. When you use content from another web page, you only sometimes share the source, and you sometimes just copy and paste the information. Or do you always cite the source and provide the link where you have extracted the content or information? Or you don't care about citing the source of the information? So when you are looking for information, number 5, you search for reliable information, but you get too many results. Or you use symbols and punctuation marks for an effective search, or you get on to the first result page you get. I'm just going to click randomly here. We can just to get the quiz going. And then when you want to suppress words in a search, you put a hyphen before the word, or you introduce the word between inverted commas, and then you put a plus before the word. Okay, so when you copy information from the internet, do you just copy and paste the content straight? Or do you copy and paste the information and modify it a little and make it probably your own? Or you extract the information and use it in your own words? Okay, and then when you use digital information to create content, you don't care about the structure, the punctuation marks. You organize the content in a good structured way, but you still copy and paste too much information. Or you organize information in paragraphs for easier understanding and use punctuation marks. When giving your personal data online, you don't check any condition and do not inform yourself about them. You do not mind sharing your personal data with others. You just check the main ones, but you skip some because you want to use the site quickly. Or you check all the conditions of privacy and questions given by the technical service before editing for the website. But as you can see, they're good quizzes. So when you've gone through the content for digital citizenship, the students actually get an opportunity to, I suppose, get a reminder of what's right and what's the right approach and the wrong approach for digital citizenship using this quiz at the end of the presentation. So you inform yourself and ask questions about his or her network life, trying to be cautious and stay safe before taking the big step of talking orally or physically, if possible, with him or her. You know that meeting someone online implies a certain responsibility. You look into the person's digital footprint, but you don't take long to accept the person as a friend without making sure the person is not lying. And you don't care about the risks that can entail people meeting online. You meet people online and make friends without investigating. So you put in your results, and then you get your, or you put in your selection, and then you get your results. So it gives you a good output in terms of if you're a good digital citizen or not. I got 60% based on my answers, and then it gives you an idea of what you need to improve on. What we'll do is we'll look at the Digital Wellbeing Educators app. So if I can go through that. So the app was an important part of the course, and it was developed and dedicated to adding, I suppose, an innovative way for students to learn and educators to teach, opposing the free online curriculum and the online educational resources. And so the Digital Wellbeing Educators app houses all of the information from the Digital Wellbeing Educators project. So it includes interactive learning materials, multimedia content, and ultimately encourages users to implement their own digital wellbeing strategies. And it is a great way to ensure that digital technology presents an effective way for students and users to improve their digital skills, literacy, and ultimate well-being in a way that's familiar to them. So what the app is, obviously it's available and it has all the resources. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take a closer look at the app, and Anya Hamill from EUEI is going to talk to us about the app and what that is. And then what we can do is we can come back and we can have a quick look at, I'm going to show you another video, and we can have time for questions and answers as well. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen.
And content. So a wee bit about the app. It is dedicated to adding an innovative way for students to learn and educators to teach by housing all of the digital wellbeing educators' free online curriculum and OERs. So it is designed not only to provide educators and students with digital wellbeing information, but also guide them through interactive learning material, multimedia content, and ultimately to encourage users to implement their own digital wellbeing strategies. So when users first arrive onto the app, this is what it will look like, with the main menu, housing the accessibility section, the English menu, the Spanish menu, and the quizzes feature. So firstly, I would like to take you through the accessibility section. So as digital wellbeing educators, we are very aware of the importance that content be available to everyone. So this is why we have included a set of instructions for iPhone users and Android users, which basically outlines where to find the accessibility features within the settings of your smartphone. So for example, how to turn on the audio descriptions, or how to increase the size of the text on your screen, how to use the zoom features, and many more that will really enhance how you view the app. So go back to the main menu. I'm not sure if you can tell by my accent, but I am from Northern Ireland. So my Spanish is not very good, and this is why I will be taking you through the English menu today. So click onto the English menu. Just take a wee minute to load. And then, as you can see, there is 8 modules. So you can dip in and out of the modules as you like. whatever you find most interesting or would you like to learn first. But we would recommend you start with the recommended 1 to 8 order, as you will find it more. You'll be able to understand the content better, and that is what we would suggest. So as you can see, there's five sections. So this module, interested in learning the importance of digital wellbeing, let's log in. So this is really an introduction to the digital wellbeing topic. So we've clicked onto the module 1.1. As you can see, the information is very bite-sized. It's in bullet points. We did wanted to keep it very easy for the students to engage with, and so this just focuses on the negative impacts, making students aware of the negative impacts of technology. We know there are many positive benefits to using social media and digital technology, but it's also very important to understand the downsides of it as well. So that's just a brief introduction to the topic. So moving on to the second section, 1.2, understanding digital behaviour. So in this section, it really talks about how technology and life online can impact not only your mental health, but also and your self-esteem, but it can also impact your physical health. I read a report a couple of weeks ago that Netflix had something like 16 million new sign-ups since the start of lockdown. So that really just highlights how people are spending their time. It's very easy to waste an evening sitting in front of the television, streaming Netflix or Amazon Prime, or scrolling through social media like Instagram and Snapchat. And this section really talks about the importance of getting away from the screen and getting outside and getting involved in activities, and really just to log off. So I'll go back to the main menu. So section 1.3, how to appreciate technology. That was just a wee pun. So this section, really it lists the best apps to improve your digital wellbeing. Some of them are very useful and worthwhile. So everyone should really consider downloading them. So the first suggested app is Headspace, which is a meditation and mindfulness app. So the second app is 8Fit, which is a fitness app that provides users with personalized recipes and workouts. And another one that I thought was very interesting was the Streaks app, which is a to-do list that helps you form good habits and an essential app to hold you accountable to all your goals. So this is very different from the kind of apps that students are probably very used to, like Snapchat and Instagram. These really put your mental health first and your physical health, and makes you be sort of productive while you're on your phone. And yes, well, as I said, it's worth considering to download them. So section 1.4, the wellbeing activity. So this section houses a few quick activities to become aware of the effects of social media and spending a lot of time online. So I'll click the first link, the deficits in social skills. And this talks about technology and the deficits in social skills. So this really just provides an insight into spending a lot of time online. And if you scroll to the bottom, it will give you a tip. So each of the links has very useful tips. And so this one is never post anything online that you wouldn't want your parents or future employers to see. So really just helps to open your mind and understand the fact that posting things and really not engaging with the content you online as well as you should. And so the final section is 1.5, logging off. So this is basically just a quick conclusion of the module, and the first module ultimately outlines how important it is to take positive and responsible steps when protecting your digital well-being. So I'd like to take you back to the main module menu and click into module 2. I just wanted to briefly show you module 2 because some of the features aren't included in the first module. So for example, so this module is about your self-image and online identity. And I want to click into section 2.2, watch this space. So this section just differs slightly from module 1 as it has YouTube links. So the first video is about building your online and offline digital identity. And the second clip is living behind the mask online. So basically, these are just short videos that provide insight onto how people can often not portray themselves online, and that people are often very different in real life. I'll click off that one and then show you this one. So those are really useful to just take some time out and watch those. Now the second feature I wanted to show was the case study. So module 2 has the 2.4 behind the screen, a case study of truth. So this is just basically a case study of, again, how people can portray sort of their best selves online, and usually what you see is a very picturesque, idealistic world where it seems that there's no unhappiness or no flaws, and really it just talks about how people are often can struggle with things in their personal lives that often you won't see from their social media images. And so it is important to remember that not everything is as it seems online. So I'll go back, and I would like to go back to the main menu, and I would like to click into the quizzes features. So I click into the module 1. So we take the quiz, start the quiz. So there you will be faced firstly with instructions and rules on how to use the quiz. So let's get started. So anxiety is associated by spending too much time online, which I think is true. Spending too much time on your mobile will affect your eyesight. Again, true. Weight gain can be caused by spending excessive time on your phone. True. So submit quiz. Submit. And then there you will get the results. So congratulations, you've passed the quiz. So I think it's just a nice wee feature to show what you've learned, or what you have, maybe you need to go back and spend more time learning, and really it's just a fun way to really engage with the content you've learned. So that is pretty much the app in a nutshell. Obviously there is there's 8 modules. I've only briefly taken you through the first 2, and the content is really, really useful and relevant today. Today, students have never spent more time online as they have. We are very they grew up using it, and and often they wouldn't have been taught how to use it positively and maybe productively. So I think the app is just really a fun way to learn both the positives and possibly the negative sides of digital technology and social media, and how to use it in a more positive way. So yes, I hope that you will think that the app will be useful and maybe go and download it and see it for yourselves. So that's pretty much it. Thank you all for listening.
Yeah, good to go. Okay, welcome back everybody. So that is the app, and the app will be available next week. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, first of all, I have a little bit of time. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you, because cyberbullying is huge and it's on the increase for students and a huge concern for educators, I'm going to show you a quick video to show you the type of video content that we have in the modules. What I'm also going to do is do a quick run through the educators module, which is separate to the students modules, and I'm going to show you what all that stuff is. And then we're going to have a quick question and answer session at the end. So I understand and I see there's a couple of questions in there, so we'll cover that nicely, okay? So I'm going to just first of all start with the video on cyberbullying, which we think is highly relevant to the content that is needed in these modules. And this is basically a student, and what he did was he created this video with his dad based on bullying, so it's quite a strong, compelling video. Okay, so you can see there from that video, that was actually a project that this young guy did with his dad as part of a bullying project. So it could be an option for educators to do it with their students. And we have included that in the modules. So I'm just going to basically bring you through to the website. So as I said, if we go into the learning resources, you pick either English or Spanish, and that's where the digital wellbeing educators app and the curriculum are. What you do is you go into the page and then you scroll down. You're in the right page here, you scroll down and there's all your resources and you download. And it goes into a zip file, just to make sure you know where everything is. What we're going to do now, I'm just going to bring you briefly through the trainers module, so you can have an idea of how it can help you, because we really do suggest this as a starters module for all of the educators. And it talks about digital well-being, and I suppose in the educational world and the classroom and what it is. And obviously when it comes to students and young people, and understanding from their perspective, and how you can help them manage their digital well-being and online lives. So, and how important your role is as well, I suppose, from that angle. So you're all obviously in the front line of our higher education systems, and you're shaping the skills and attitudes. So it's a benefit for everybody to understand digital well-being and how to include it in every word that we're involved, whether it be educational, personal or professional. And it sets a positive scene and an informed, transparent scene for educators with their students in the digital world. So we basically talk about digital wellbeing educators. So you're reintroduced to the project on what it is, and then the impacts of what we would like you to achieve out of these modules. And obviously the benefits for you and your students in your classrooms. So, and then digital citizenship, which we feel is probably one of the most important modules. They're all very important, but we feel that this one kind of encompasses nearly everything that the project talks about, and how, I suppose, the digital citizenship ethics within the education sector as well. And then we look at the 9 different elements, so whether it's digital access, commerce, communication, literacy. So you get a good handle and an understanding of what that module encompasses and what digital citizenship is. And it's really good, it's really good content to have an understanding of before you commence the modules with your students. So we look at the 9 different themes and elements, and then we obviously how you can be responsible and appropriate and empower your technology before you enter the classroom with students, as it is with digital citizen, and how you can build positive digital experiences and recognize your own actions, because I think sometimes if we're not aware, if we're not using these, we may lose touch, or we may not be, we need to be reminded basically of our actions on a daily basis. So it's making sure that you're geared up with all the foundation material that you need before you push the classroom. And then it basically talks about digital access. So how to be aware of your community and how to provide different options for lessons. So digital commerce and how you can understand how to safeguard your students in the digital commerce world, from buying, selling, banking. And then digital communication collaboration and what that is. So it's electronic exchange of information. So it gives you a good recap to what all of those things are. And fluency and digital health and welfare. So as you can see, this content is a wee bit more higher level, and it's a little bit different to the digital wellbeing introduction module. Okay, and then we have a little read here for you, Digital Wellness 101, how to take control of your life online, so that you feel ready to go and you feel that you're ready to take on all of these modules and you've everything that you need to do that. And then digital laws, the creation of rules and policies that address issues related to the online world. And I suppose the other aspect of this is how you can incorporate in as an organisation into your educational policies, and how you can draft up different what digital rights and responsibilities are, because it does really need to be a holistic approach, with not just the teachers and students, but also from an organisation perspective. And then digital security and privacy, electronic precautions to guarantee safety. And then it just brings you then into these are the modules themselves for the students. So what we're going to do now for the next few minutes is we are actually going to look at some questions, and we're going to try and respond to them. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. Okay, let's have a look at the questions. And I welcome the other partners to join in as well based on what the answers are. So, okay, so when a new class starts online or a usual lecture, is there a digital wellbeing questionnaire to take the group's temperature? I asked this as a self-care is a very large field at present, also emphasised by COVID. Okay, and related, how do you avoid digital wellbeing when termed an important form of literacy, competing with other literacies, each with their own service questionnaire? Let me take the first section. So the first part of the first question, in the resources, we have how to test your well-being. We have a series of questions. So if you wanted to have a questionnaire with the group prior to rolling out the modules, we have the activity section questions that you can do this. So you can do it from a discussion perspective, or for example, you could use the Google online 8-question checkup. That could be a discussion resource. And we also have ways to check your digital well-being overall, and not in terms of your device, but as in, for example, there's questions in there when you talk about self-care, or is your eyesight straining? Do you have neck pain? You know, are you spending too much time online? Is your family disrupted? Are you not getting to enjoy your habits? So it's informing students of ways that they can be aware of their self-care. And there, so each of the modules has those questions that you can dig a little deeper and ask your students how they're doing, where they are with their digital well-being. And out of discussions, actually, it can be quite surprising, the answers. And I suppose in a lot of discussion groups, which is the real key to why they're effective, is because students get to learn from each other, and they learn commonalities. So yes, there are plenty of resources in there for you to ask those questions and find out your student's temperature, different perspectives. So how do you avoid digital wellbeing when termed an important form of literacy, competing with other literacies, each with their own service questionnaire? I'm not sure.
Laura, could I just suggest that maybe
Yes.
Julianne and Chrissa would like to
Yes, I think so, yeah.
involved in some of these, if that's okay, Julianne and Chrissa. So do you want to just try that question again, Laura?
Okay, so the second part of question 1, this is from Peter. So how do you avoid digital well-being when termed an important form of literacy, competing with other literacies, each with their own surveys and questionnaires?
Do you want to try that, Julianne?
Can you repeat the first bit of that question?
Yeah,
how do you...
No problem, Julianne. So how do you avoid digital well-being when termed an important form of literacy, competing with other literacies, each with their own surveys and questionnaires? I suppose we need to determine here what other literacies we're talking about.
Well, you know, no matter what other literacies you're talking about, it's what is necessary in order to participate in the activities that you're engaging in. And if you're engaging in an online environment, then you need to understand what that involves, and you need to have the literacy to engage in that online environment. And that includes digital well-being. That includes issues about your own health and maintaining that balance with technology. So yeah, you know, I can't say what's more important, but I can say that it is important if you're engaging online, whoever you might be, whether you're students or members of teaching staff. And digital well-being is something that we need to constantly monitor our own well-being, but also monitor the new problems and threats that might arise in the digital environment. And that is a changing environment. In some ways, it's getting safer and easier. And in other ways, there's new threats that are coming along, such as much more use of artificial intelligence techniques in online sites. So, is that an answer?
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's a tricky one. So there is another question here that's kind of related. You know, where there are trigger warnings for students, you know, in relation to learning content. So, you know, is there something needed? Do we need something to go beyond the policy or the small print? But, you know, to look at an institutional stance and, you know, maybe look at something that needs to be delivered in terms of induction or something a bit more wider than that.
I mean, if I can answer that, I think that all institutions should have some sort of induction training for their students and for their staff, because they do have a responsibility to provide that training. If they're going to expect students and staff to operate in an online environment, then they should provide that training. The induction may be a basic introduction to it. I still think, you know, as professionals, we have a responsibility to maintain our own professional development and to understand the new issues that are coming up in the online environment. So there's responsibility for us to maintain that knowledge and understanding, but there's also a responsibility on institutions to provide training in, and it should be an induction. It should be for all staff and all students in digital well-being. You know, you can see that the whole issue of mental health and well-being has been gaining in importance within higher education institutions. That's not just looking at it in terms of digital well-being, it's just looking at it as mental health and well-being. But that should also include and embrace the digital environment and digital well-being.
Okay. Thank you. So I think we've dealt with most of the questions there. So Laura, I have to thank you for a very long and very interesting presentation. A lot of stuff in there and quite complicated to integrate everything there. So it's a great time to just acknowledge the, you know, the backroom team that are making this thing possible. Grace and Sonia, they're in Latham. So it's going well so far. So I think we're going to move on to the last presentation before lunch, and it's kind of moving on to IO3. That's the teacher's digital pedagogy, and I think we have another video at this stage from Candice Hamill, if that's possible. So maybe that's going to load it up.
It's Candice Hamill here from EUEI, European Learning Institute, and I'm here today to talk to you about digital wellbeing educators, digital pedagogy course, IO3 of the Erasmus Plus project, digital wellbeing educators. Previous presenters have talked about IO1 and IO2. I'm beginning just with the IO3 digital pedagogy, the digital pedagogy tool. So it's actually found, you can see on your screen here, the digital wellbeing site. It's found under the learning resources. Resources are available in both English and Spanish. But as I don't speak Spanish, I'm going to demonstrate today in the English language version. So under English, we get the rollout in the navigation system, and you can see the other outputs of the project appear. So I'm specifically going to talk about the teacher's digital pedagogy tool. That's the problem on rollover. So we click in, takes us to the home page of the toolkit. And on this page, you can find all the introductory text for the toolkit. One of the innovative aspects of the toolkit that we've designed it from a user point of view, considered what the teacher or educator might want to do, various uses of it. And we've developed our unique 7-category classification. Categories. We have here a variety of categories. So if as an educator you want to create a course or create a new online e-learning course, these are tools, simple tools that will allow you to do that. Design and master it within and in many cases 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Here under the course creation category, we find tips for courses. I'll show you a few shortly. Category of presentation, software, animation. Maybe if you're a bit tired of using PowerPoint or whatever, there's some alternatives. And some actually very neat animation tools in that category. We have our webinar and meeting tools. I guess we're all now much more au fait with webinar and meeting tools. Zoom, Skype obviously is still a pretty standard one. Microsoft Teams. There's plenty of them out there, but we recommend some under that category. We have screencasting audio and video capture tools that you, as I'm doing here now, record my screen and talk to you via the video. We have collaboration and file sharing tools. So increasingly educators are using these with their students for the sharing of workload, but also encouraging students themselves to collaborate through these digital tools. We have bookmarking and curation tools. So rather than just simply using the bookmarking function of your browser, these are much more sophisticated ways of curating and organizing your research and online activity. And then finally, there's some project management tools which are great for particularly for project work with students, but also encouraging students to learn these digital project management tools also, as it's something that they're certainly going to need in the world of work. So that's our 7 categories of how we've organized the tool. I'll just click back to the overview page of the toolkit. So as it says here, these are our top 20 tools selected, and there are hundreds of tools out there. We've been through many, probably over 100 tools in each categories. First of all, to put them into the correct category, and then to select what we think are the best, most reliable, in many cases cheapest. Best for any category. Found that you can learn them certainly in an hour, and in many cases less than 30 minutes. And the toolkit then follows a 5-step approach. First step is we watch a short overview video, and we present some written reading summary to understand how it works, to get a snapshot of the tool, and whether it's something that's right, whether the initial impression is something that's right for you. And the next stage in our 5-stage process, or 5-step process, is to read a short pedagogic report looking at the teaching potential of the tools. Some of the tools may not initially strike you as being teaching tools, but for example, Monday is essentially a project management tool. So it's how the teaching potential of how you use Monday or Dropbox, for example, in a teaching environment. So that's outlined in our pedagogic report here. The third stage then in the toolkit is where we learn from others. Looking at how other educators, other teachers, other lecturers are using those tools in their teaching, in their classes with their students. Then we look at get started with the tool. provide you with a simple overview, a step-by-step approach on how to, in many cases, download the tool, familiarise with yourself with the tool, and then put the tool into action. And then finally, the last step in our 5-step process is a call to action to encourage you to actually use the tool and put it into action. So then on our homepage, you can give it a go. What are the benefits of these tools? What are the benefits for you? But firstly, learning intuitive, powerful tools for teaching students. We all know students are very, very digitally oriented these days. They're very much in the mobile phone generation. These are tools which sit well with students. Second thing you'll benefit from is understanding that the pedagogic potential of some of these tools. Many of them are obviously teaching tools, but some of them are less obviously teaching tools. And we hope to highlight how even those which maybe weren't designed with the primary function of teaching can also be used in the classroom and work environment with students. Thirdly, we hope the benefit would be that we hope to motivate you to incorporate some of these tools into your teaching practice. We presented 20 tools for you. We're not expecting you to dive in and learn 20 tools. Maybe start with 1 or 2 tools, see the potential, become familiar, and then look at increasing. And then finally, the other benefit would be to increase the actual sort of process for you of learning the tool. Finally, while each tool has a 5-step approach, if you want to download the pedagogic report, the overview report on each of the 20 tools that we recommend and select, we have our pedagogy assessment here. It's a very visual presentation. You can download it here. Download it already 226 times. And that if like is a shortcut to the overview of all of the 20 tools. As you can see, the graphic it's a very visual, attractive publication. So then let's go and look at some of our tools. So back to our menu. And here we have our course creation tools. So the one I'm interested in it. Let's start. So we have WordPress. So WordPress is fantastic now for putting up courses online, very simple, very straightforward to use. You get a lot of technical expertise. You can also have a full learning management system on WordPress if you so wish. Edpuzzle, which is quite a bit of animation in that. The one I'm most interested in showing you, and which is my kind of at the moment my go-to course creation tool, is TED-Ed. There's 4 tools in this category. You can then see the other as we go down the other tools within the categories. But we'll start with TED-Ed, and then I'll show you a few other examples of our 5-step approach. TED-Ed. Click on TED-Ed. And it takes you to the TED-Ed page on the Digital Wellbeing Educator site. So as I mentioned previously, we have our 5-step approach. You can see here with the link to the TED-Ed site, the TED-Ed logo. Many of you will be familiar with the TED Talks. Fantastic resource for teaching and educating generally. But what many people don't know is that TED also have an educational division where they have using their video-based resources in an online course in an online classroom. So the first stage in our 5-step approach is to watch a short overview video of what TED is, or TED-Ed is. So I'll just watch the video. I might watch a bit of it and see. There you go. So we're back. We now have had a very quick overview of TED Ed. So hopefully you agree that was worth 3 minutes of your life. So that's the starting point. Each of the resources has a short overview video, more or less to give you the overview and a little bit of encouragement to try it out. You can snapshot this. I think this is something that might be good for me. And also as part of our toolkit, look at 3 reasons why to use TED Ed in the classroom. Use a bank of videos of the TED Talks, for example, or YouTube, or you can upload your own video to YouTube and then base your lesson around that. So you have a great lesson plan structure, think section, dig deeper section, and then also the facility to ask the students questions, test their knowledge, see who's taken to actually engage with the video and what they've learned. So you have, as I said, that one of the most powerful features is that the availability to track and measure the various forms of engagement with your lesson. And so here are some, we've also then some examples of possibilities with TED Ed. You can implement the classroom pedagogy, you can do some personalization with it, encourage student learning, peer learning, discussion between the students themselves, discussion facility on TED Ed, and then if you want you can either set your settings so that it's only available to your students, or you can develop more broadly on the internet. So that's this first section of our 5-step approach, is to watch short video. Step 2 then is read a little bit about the pedagogical potential of TED Ed. These are typically long, the advantages and some disadvantages. This highlights if there are cost implications. TED Ed itself is free, but some of the other tools suggest that there is a cost to them. More if you want all of the functionality. And that's outlined in pedagogic assessment. We also look at how teachers are using it. We have some quotations from teachers of their experiences using it. And the next section then is we look at learning from others. So again, looking how other teachers are using TED Ed, or using, in this case, TED Ed, are using the tool in a teaching environment. First one. There we can see an example of how TED-Ed could very easily be used in a flipped classroom situation. So, and there are other videos there of how educators are using TED-Ed. That's step 3 in our 5-step process. Step 4 then is actually how to actually get started with TED-Ed, how to use it. And in this case, we have a 9-step process. So step 1, go to TED-Ed. Step 2, find the YouTube video. Step 3, and so on and so forth through to step 9. And then finally, the 5th step in our 5-step process of call to action, our TED-Ed flipped learning module. Click to the but I'm not actually that. You can see the 5-step approach. What I'd like to do is take you back then to the clip and we look at some other lessons. Some other categories, some other tools. Box. Again, take a look at some marking information. Power trees. Another example of one of our tools. So again, 5-step approach. We have our Power Trees logo here, so you know you're on the right software. We have the link to the Power Trees site. Our 5-step approach. And we start off with Power Trees. It's a visual and collaborative curation tool that allows users to organize, explore, and share any URL they find online, as well as to upload their own personal photos, files, and notes. Why educators should use Power Trees? It offers a great collaborative organizational system to digitize all of the projects with ease and consistency. It's a great tool for organizing your own research and also particularly for students to organize their research around the topic. And there actually is a teacher plan available by the Power Trees at very low cost. Just take a quick look at what is the Power Trees video. That's the overview of Power Trees. So you can see while teaching, there are other uses to Power Trees other than purely an educational aspect. So generally organising your digital life, it's great for that. But I think hopefully you can see how it can be used in an educational environment. Again, the same 5-step approach. Download the pedagogical report on Power Trees, the advantages and disadvantages from my experiences from fellow educators. In our section on learning from others. And again, so you can see how others are using Power Trees in their teaching, how to get started with Power Trees. So in this case, you can see a 3-step approach, and then finally the action, your call to action, how to implement Power Trees. You can see that consistency throughout our tools. Well, I'd just like to finish off my presentation, then just to give you just a quick snapshot of what the 20 tools are. So again, So under course creation, we have WordPress, which we talked about, with Ed Puzzle, we have TED Ed, we have Go Conquer, and that's your 4 in that category. Under collaboration and file sharing tools, we have Dropbox, which is a cloud-based file sharing system. Slack, which is like a business version of WhatsApp, or industry uses it quite a lot. It's quite an upcoming product. And WeTransfer for sending files, pretty useful for sending large files to groups of students at no cost. Screen capture tools and audio casting. We have Adobe Spark, which is a lovely product for both for screencasting, but also for adding a bit of polish to your presentation. You have Camtasia, which is video recording, and Screencast-O-Matic, which is probably the best known screencasting tool. Presentation and animation tools. We have Kahoot, which is actually now becoming sort of quite prevalent within classrooms. Students are loving it. Very visual product. Lots of interactivity with that. We have Nearpod, which is again a really nice, lovely product for creating very animated presentations. Lots of interactive features in that. Lots of polling, lots of questions. Great for engaging students in classroom. You can create your own presentations within Nearpod, or also by easily upload a PowerPoint or a PDF that you already have, and then add the interactive elements to your PowerPoint or PDF. Really highly recommend Nearpod. Outone then, again, a great tool, great animation tool. Very simple to create engaging animations. Webinars and meeting tools, Zoom, which I guess we're now all familiar with since COVID-19. It went from 0 to almost the industry standard in sort of 4 months. Skype, which is a voice over internet protocol tool for online communication, and GoToWebinar, which is again one of the best webinar delivery platforms. The free version works pretty good. The paid for version is really excellent. Project management, we have Monday. So again, these are tools, particularly in project management, which you may not have thought of as teaching tools, but great tools for teaching students in their project work. The other plus point is that these are tools that industry is using, so often when your students are out in the world of work, they're going to be familiar with the tools that business are using. Those are our 7 categories, and those are our 20 tools. I hope you've enjoyed this session. And if you just Google digital wellbeing educators, hit the site, and then you have all the resources on the site. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed that.
Okay, so thank you, Canis. So actually, we're coming up very close to 1 o'clock, so if it's okay, we might just push on now, and I'll just make a couple of closing comments, and then maybe Julianne could just introduce us to the afternoon session. So just one quick comment. I mean, I just found the whole morning showed a great example of how academia can interact with the private sector to produce a powerful set of resources. And maybe in the context of COVID and all the challenges we experience, maybe this is the future for dealing with situations like this. Can I just thank the panelists for this morning, for giving us an excellent presentation on the content and outputs of digital wellbeing for educators. And it's obviously a great outcome to this project, and a challenging project as well. I have to thank Grace and Sonia again for all the work they've done in the background, and we'll be working on this again in the afternoon. So also to all the attendees, we had I think over 50 at one stage today, and they've come from all over the world: Dubai, Greece, Romania, Ireland, England, and Nepal. So I hope the weather is better there than here, because it's pretty bad here today. So just to touch base again before I hand over to Julianne. So we have a multiplier or a showcase tomorrow. And really the aim of this really is to broaden out the discussion, and we're going to have a number of keynote speakers, and they're all very knowledgeable in their field. So that will add to what we've done today. And looking at the numbers that are registered tomorrow, they're from Japan, Uruguay, Bangladesh, Russia, Turkey, and all over the world. And then there's a follow-on event in the afternoon led from University of Alcalá in Spain.